So, how's everybody doing? Pastor Ty here. I thought I would take a look at some books on the subject of homiletics, because I'm a firm believer is that whatever subject or whatever occupation you have, you don't stop learning until you stop breathing. And so I read or reread one or two books a year on the subject of homiletics. I just like to kind of get a general overview of some things. Most of what I'm going to share with you are the most recommended from one homiletic textbook to another. So let's get into it. The first one we'll bring in is the Preparation and Delivery of Sermons by John Broadus. This is how you pronounced it. He was one of the founders of Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, I believe back right after the Civil War. And this book came out in 1870, and as I understand it, was originally written for someone who was deaf or blind. I can't remember the subject exactly, but it's an excellent book, very much worth your reading. And I think that the title defines the word homiletics, preparation and delivery of sermons. And you might want to get a hold of those. If you can't find a hard copy, you can get one in PDF form on archive.org, the Internet Archive, and it's not the first one that I printed off that way. So, matter of fact, I have one I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Another one that's highly recommended, what I think is good, is this book called Between Two Worlds by John R.W. Stott. And Stott is one of those guys you might have a love-hate relationship with. He has passed on now. As far as this textbook is very good. He talks about the pastor, the preacher, standing between two worlds, heaven and earth. And we'll take a review of that here sometime soon, hopefully. Another one you're going to want to read is most recommended. It's a really good book. It's called Biblical Preaching by Haddon Robinson. And I believe this is from 1980. And his whole concept is learning what the big idea. What is the big idea of the text that you're reading? And that's going to be your sermon subject. And that's a very good book. Haddon Robinson is excellent when it comes to the subject of homiletics. That one's really popular, and got a hold of this. And it's not too bad. It wasn't to all the hype that I heard, but I still enjoyed reading the book. This is Christ-Centered Preaching by Brian Chappell, and mine happens to be the second edition. And like most of them, it begins with, why you should be a preacher. All of them do. It seems like they seem to get into that. Want to talk about what preaching is all about, right? The principles and such. It's not a bad read, really. This book right here, D. Martin Lloyd-Jones. Quite a name. He's passed on. But this book here, these are addresses, preaching and preachers. Yep, they got it right. Sometimes I'll say it's preachers and preaching, but you should read this book. He not only talks about the subject of preparing the sermon, but preparing the preacher as well. You should read this book. It comes highly recommended by Pastor Ty. I think I'll do a review of that one as well. One you might know very well is this one here called Lectures to My Students by Charles Haddon Spurgeon, one of my favorite writers. And some of it is, shall we say, in our age, a little humorous. Others of it are quite eye-opening, quite serious. And his last section in there, commenting on commentaries, is sometimes broken off and given a second book. But this is one that you should read by someone who knew what he was talking about in many, many ways, right? Here's another book that I guess it was popular because it has John MacArthur's name on it. And when it comes to expository preaching, John MacArthur's name went with it. He started what is called the Master's Seminary. And while this book is not written particularly by John MacArthur, he has a few chapters in it. It is by the men of the Master's Seminary, the faculty of the Master's Seminary. And I actually enjoyed this. This was quite exciting when it comes to this subject. John MacArthur shines, right? And so this is a highly recommended book. It goes to all the different subjects. Of course, it begins with the priority of expository preaching. It goes into the tools that you should have, how to put together the ideas and the outlines. This is very well done and very well easy to read. And so I recommend this one. There's another one you may have heard recommended, and sometimes it's called The Joy of Preaching by Phillips Brooks from the 19th century. Is a series of lectures that he did on the subject at Yale, Divinity School of Yale College in 1877. I've had a couple copies of this and gave it away, but I have a PDF from Internet Archive on it. And what I do when I do a PDF book is I print it off. And so I read it this way. And so I like it. It looks like the book. It's made a little bigger, make it easier for me to read. And so that's how I take what I do with those. So any one of these older books you're looking for that are public domain, give Internet Archive or other places. One book I really liked, and though in some ways it's dated, I mean it's old, some of the information in it is called The Minister in His Study by Wilbur Smith. And this is an author that I really enjoy on a lot of his subjects. He used to have a radio program on at Moody Radio, MBI, years ago, The Minister in His Study, and he would that's not it, the Thoughts from a Minister's Library, chats from a minister's library. Hey, I'm 66, okay? Would sound like a radio program I would like to listen to. But this talks about the minister when he is in his operating room, when he is in his kitchen, baking, preparing the theological meal for the congregation. The minister in his study. A lot of the things in it are out of date, but then there's a lot of it that's still good. I am not one who has completely gone over to the digital age. I still like to do things analog. I like to write things down. My sermon notes are written down. I don't use a iPad or one of those kind of things. I've thought about it a few times, but I don't. I prefer to write it down. There's something about writing it down makes it easier for me to remember. And so anything by Wilbur Smith is just about recommended by Pastor Ty. And one final thing I want to mention here is the one I'm currently reading, and it is called The Craft of the Sermons. Actually, this is two books put together. The Craft of the Sermon Construction and The Craft of the Sermon Illustration. And so you have part of the book, I would say half of, but you have two books condensed into one. You have the first one is The Craft of the Sermon Construction, and the last part about The Craft of the Sermon Illustration. And so I've almost just about completed the first section of the book, and I would like to do a review of this. I found this very exciting. Even though it's older, is from the 1940s, which is way older than Pastor Ty, just to be clear. And he was Episcopalian? No, it says he was president of the London Free Church Federal Council, whatever any of that means. So I'm not sure what, I would assume some kind of Church of England, but those guys did some pretty good books on the subject of homiletics. Back in the 19th century, I think there were a lot of cases you heard some of those guys preaching, they didn't sound any different than Baptists did. Of course, there's a lot of Baptists that sounded like, well, I'll leave that subject alone. But I'm going to do a review on this. If you'd like to hear a review on something else, you let me know. What homiletics books will you recommend to Pastor Ty to read? Like I said, I've got more. These are not all of them. And I like to look at them over the course and do a few videos on a subject. But if you find something interesting, let me know what it is. And if you like any of these, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. And say, Pastor Ty, do a review of this one or that one. And I would be happy to think about it. So you all have a great day. Pastor Ty again, signing off. You have a wonderful day in Jesus.